Have you ever had the experience where you stumble across a post that's related to a show that you have yet to get to, but as soon as you come across this one thing, you suddenly feel the urge to drop everything you're doing and consume every last drop of this show? Well, last summer, while I was scrolling through social media, I stumbled across this clip from the 5th episode of the Fruits Basket reboot.
There's no answer. Maybe they can't hear that wussy knock of yours. My turn. Excuse me!
Having watched anime for a good 8 years now, I had obviously heard of the original Fruits Basket and had had it on my watch list for quite a while. But of course, said watch list kept getting longer and longer, with other shows taking priority and interest over others, and I eventually was like, if I don't get to it, it's not gonna kill me. And when the reboot was announced, I took notice of all the excitement from original fans, but I didn't think too much of it. Which brings me back to discovering this clip. I swear to God that after the original burst of laughter this provided me, it kept popping into my head for the rest of the day, making me crazily chuckle to myself and causing my classmates and professors to give me some pretty concerned looks. Nevertheless, such an effect was enough to convince me to immediately start watching the reboot. To be clear, my foreknowledge of Fruits Basket was bare minimum at this point. I knew the names Tohru, Kyo, and Yuki. I knew that the Soma family were the ones that changed into animals whenever they were hugged for some reason, and I knew that Kyo was a cat, Yuki was a rat, and Tohru was a cinnamon roll. From clips I had seen of the original, I was fully expecting this really light, comedic, fun shoujo series, something that I could just munch on popcorn to. Now, if you've seen the show, or at the very least have read the title of this video, you know that this is the tiniest fraction of what this show has to offer. I am not lying when I say that I was thrown on the biggest goddamn loop of my life, and I absolutely loved it. I ended up binging all of season 1 in 2 days, and before you judge me, I definitely could have done it in 1 if I had had time. Then when season 2 began airing earlier this year, I was able to watch it weekly through to its conclusion a couple weeks ago. And I can say now with absolute certainty that Fruits Basket is not only an absolute masterpiece, but one of my favorite shows of all time. And you're about to spend however many minutes listening to me explain why. A very necessary disclaimer before we continue, I have only seen Fruits Basket 2019. I have not seen the 2001 anime, nor have I read the manga, though I do know some stuff that happens down the line. Still, I've heard from many other fans that the reboot follows the manga very well, so I'm giving my compliments to both the show's team and original author Natsuki Takeo whenever I give my praises. So, that being said, we're just gonna flash a little spoiler warning for the reboot all the way through season 2. Let's jump in by talking about the series' main draw, which, being shoujo, is the romance. Though for our purposes, I specifically want to talk about the dynamic between Tohru, Kyo, and Yuki. By early episode 2, it is very clear as to what is being set up between the three of them. A young girl begins living with a house full of men, 2 of which are very cute boys her age who appear to be polar opposites, and the rest is history. There's more to it than that, obviously, but we've seen enough of this shit to know that a love triangle's a forming. At least, that's what the show would have you believe. In reality, from the very get-go, almost everything that the characters do contradicts the fundamentals of this trope. First of all, Tohru, being the pure being that she is just thankful to be given a place to stay. The idea of living with men that aren't related to her and whom she barely knows doesn't even cross her mind as something scandalous or as a romantic opportunity. She just wishes to pay back their kindness and to get to know and understand them better. Likewise, Kyo and Yuki aren't immediately swept off their feet the second they interact with her. On the contrary, they actually think she's kind of a weirdo and an airhead. A surprisingly endearing weirdo, but nevertheless someone they just took in out of hospitality, and so she doesn't leak their secret. However, as time goes on, we see how much the 2 boys grow to care about her, and she for them as close friends. Any budding crushes or romantic feelings, while implied by both the storytelling and other characters, are not referenced by the 3 themselves, at least throughout season 1. Which brings us to Kyo and Yuki's relationship in the middle of all this. Reference just about any other love triangle and you'll find that generally the 2 love interests' only real beef with each other is that they want to be with the main character and that's it. All of their hate for each other stems from that one thing and nothing else. What makes Fruits Basket's love triangle so brilliant is that Kyo and Yuki's rivalry has nothing to do with Tohru or romance. In fact, it's been going on for just about their entire lives. Cats and rats are natural enemies, yes, but that is barely even a factor. Heck, Yuki's brother Ayame is the snake, so the Zodiac's personal relationships with each other, like their personalities, don't necessarily correlate with the spirits they're possessed by. Rather, the boys' conflict is a horribly sad concoction of envy, guilt, anger, and exhaustion from years and years of being isolated, misunderstood, and rejected by their parents, by the Somas, and by most everyone else around them, both for wildly different reasons. They frequently fight not because they view each other as romantic competition, but because they're now being forced to live together and actually get to know one another. Hell, they actually work and spend time together only when Tohru is involved, so her introduction is actually an improvement for their relationship, as well as for their individual selves. Hatsuharu even says this to Rin at one point.
あの人のおかげなんだと思う。ユキと今日のオーラ、和らいでた。リンも会えばわかるかも。
Season 2 brilliantly adds on to this concept by revealing that while Kyo's feelings matured into romantic love, Yuki instead views Tohru as the motherly figure he never had. Basically, she's his deluxe mom friend. But joking aside, this clarifies why we never saw the cliched bickering between the two boys. Because Yuki, though he tried to deny it, never loved Tohru in that way. So, if you want to be technical about it, there was no real love triangle to begin with. We, as the audience, just made an assumption based on what little we were given and previous media that we've seen. And having gone back and rewatched all of the episodes, it's very clear to see that the writers have been placing hints in this direction the entire time. I'll admit that I've always shipped Tohru with Kyo, but most of my other friends who have watched the show said that they shipped her with Yuki throughout most of season 1. However, as soon as episode 24 hit, the episode where Kyo's true form is revealed, they immediately switched sides and began shipping him with Tohru instead. Watch many reactors on YouTube and you will find the exact same result. And of course, season 2 dealt the final blow in plunging us all down the Kyoto shipping hole. But the question is, why is the initial switch from Yuki to Kyo so easy to make? To put it simply, much like how Yuki tries so hard to deny his feelings in season 2, his scenes with Tohru in season 1 purposefully pushed the romance on us too hard. What do I mean by that? Well, like I said earlier, Yuki never really had romantic feelings for Tohru in the first place, and the same goes in the opposite direction. So any romantic tone that's derived from their scenes is either purposefully pushed by the writers, or just made up by the audience instead of happening organically. Basically, the story, or the expectations for the story, is driving the romance, not the characters. Many stories make this mistake unironically and greatly suffer for it. But the writers of Fruits Basket seem to consciously make this choice to great effect. Even if it wasn't done on purpose, the quote-unquote romantic scenes with Tohru and Yuki always feel a little off, and I thought so even on my first watch. Again, not only is Yuki trying to convince himself that his feelings are romantic, but for a good chunk of season 1, he still seems to be putting on a mask whenever he interacts with Tohru, much like he does for everyone at school. He's a lot more genuine with her than most, sure, but there's always some part of their interactions that feel as if at least part of them are phony. And that's because, in terms of the story, they are. Compare these to Tohru's scenes with Kyo. In season 1, their interactions are more mundane and smaller, but they are also more natural and realistic. Chatting on the roof, making rice balls, cooking dinner when the other is sick. Now compare these with Yuki scenes. Covering a garden in a typhoon, her cowering from his fan club at school, him gifting her with a ribbon in the moonlight at a bathhouse while they're wearing kimono robe things. And he calls her princess. These scenes are all great in their own right, I'm just making a comparison. Additionally, besides hiding the truth about his true form, Kyo doesn't really hold back anything with Tohru. Yes, he is gentler with her than anybody else in his life, and he doesn't want to hurt her, but he's also not afraid to tease her and call her out, usually for when she's overthinking something or not taking care of herself. Neither of them is forcing themselves to act or seem a certain way around one another, so all of their scenes come off very naturally. And it's this sense of normalcy and all the tiny things that build up to that one massive moment in episode 24 The transformation, the confrontation on the rock, and that one moment where you didn't realize how much you wanted them to kiss until they threw that fake out at you. I wanted to throw my computer so hard, I swear to God. So yeah, this is an incredible setup and assembly of the love triangle trope. Of course, this isn't the only romantic aspect of the show, far from it. I'm not going to go too into detail about every single couple in the show, otherwise we'd be here for an entire week, but I do have some time to talk about my babes just a little bit. Kyo and Tohru. God, when I say I fell for this ship, I am still on the ground, I can't get up, and I'm refusing to call life alert. These two are unironically my one true pairing. They are both such beautifully written and developed characters individually, but when you put them together, that's when the show really shines. And the scenes don't even have to necessarily be forwarding their relationship either. The other couples are cute, but I legitimately think that a small part of me will die if these two don't end up happily together. Again, I do know some stuff from the manga, but I ain't gonna say it here. Haru and Rin. I was a little indifferent to them at first, but then of course I saw the backstory, cried, and was immediately all for it. Again, they're both amazing characters on their own, and their relationship provides a nice contrast to what we see from everyone else. I will say that the final episode of Season 2 definitely shed a new light on Kurano and Uotani for me. I'm still not 100% on board with it, mostly because it still feels rather underdeveloped at this moment and happened rather quickly. But like I said, the revelation that Arisa was the first person he came to care about after breaking free from the curse kind of helps my understanding of the pace. I have no doubt that this will be further delved into for Season 3, so I'm not going to pass judgment just yet. Yuki and Machi. Am I reading the room correctly on that one? Is this a thing? Or him and Kakeru. Both are cute. I'm flexible. Also, can I tell you how freaking refreshing it is to have a romance show where none of the characters are framed in a sexualized fashion? When the Somas turn back into humans, they're naked, yes, but there's also an actual logical reason as to why it's like that, and it's not for the sake of fan service. Additionally, everyone just kind of wears what they wear, and there's no shots going up their bodies for the sake of the viewers or other characters. There's a few scenes outside of transforming where the boys are shirtless, but again, it's because they're changing or swimming. It's not abs for the sake of abs. Anyway, cuties and tastefulness aside, what makes Fruits Basket so special is that it's not just about romantic love, but about love in general. Platonic love, familial love, self-love, all of these are present in the story and are all very important. Self-love above all of them. The saying goes that before you can truly love anything else, you must first come to love yourself. And in that sense, this is very much a coming-of-age story, not just for the children and teenage characters, but for the adults as well. Practically everyone in this show, from Tohru to the Somas, think lowly of themselves and don't think they deserve love or happiness for one reason or another. That one reason tends to be Akito 99% of the time, but I digress. This also ties into a huge theme that presents itself in the latter half of Season 2, that your loved ones can give you love and strength to get back up, but in the end it must be your own strength that propels you forward, otherwise you'll keep falling down. This is why Kyo and Tohru aren't together yet. This is why Rin broke up with Haru. This is why Yuki is just now breaking out of his shell. There are other external and internal reasons, obviously, but thematically, this is the idea. They want to be able to love and support each other, but they'll be unable to if they can't hold up their own weight first. And that's just one of the beautiful lessons about life and love that this show has to offer. Sometimes I want to call it life lessons, the anime, especially with how Kyoko's posthumous wisdom seems to always help Tohru and everyone else. And yet, it never once feels pretentious. Maybe it's because that while these are lessons I've definitely learned before, they're lessons that I seem to always forget or push aside. And then there's the lessons that completely changed my mindset on things. How you should treasure all of your memories, even the bad ones. How sometimes, even if you don't know what to say or do to help someone, simply staying can make all the difference. Without a doubt, these messages in this show have inspired me to be a better person. And I think I was a pretty good person before this, too. Completely shifting gears, because I'm really bad at segues, I would like to touch upon the Soma family and the Zodiac Curse. Like everything else in this show, they appear very simple and straightforward in the beginning, but become more twisted and tangled the more you dive deeper into them. The dynamic between all of the Zodiac members and the dynamic of the Soma family in general is probably one of the most unique relationships I've ever seen in fiction. Natsuki Takiya truly took the every family has problems idea to a whole other level and throws all kinds of interesting tidbits and curveballs, knowing just when to drop and utilize them in the story. The Zodiacs, when you get right down to it, are only related by the curse and by name, nothing else. The Somas are such a ginormous family that, besides brothers Yuki and Ayame, all of them are probably only blood related by going generations and generations down the line. In all honesty, if it weren't for the curse, there's a good chance that most of them wouldn't know each other, or at least wouldn't be as close. That being said, it's very clear that they all genuinely care about each other outside of their spiritual bond. The curse is what brought them together, but it's not what defines their relationship with one another. What's also interesting about the Zodiacs is that how they're viewed, both by themselves and by others, and everything that happens to them, are not actually caused by the curse, but by how the family perceives it. Yuki's parents practically selling him off to live with the head of the family, Rin's parents abusing and abandoning her, Momoji's father erasing his mother's memories so they can have a happy family without their son, Kyo's mother killing herself and his biological father wishing him dead because of it. None of these things happen because of the Zodiac members or the spirits possessing them, but because of how the Somas have been taught to view them. Suddenly, they are only seen for the animal spirits within them. The human part of them no longer seems to matter. While all of them certainly suffer because of this, Yuki and Kyo are definitely the biggest victims. The other Zodiacs are at least respected by most of the inner circle of Somas who know about the curse. However, Yuki is put on such a high pedestal for being the rat that he's perceived to be perfect and not want anything else in life. And because he's the cat, Kyo is viewed almost as a cursed devil, something dirty that doesn't deserve the time of day. The unfortunate appearance of his true form doesn't help matters either, despite the fact that he doesn't lose control or his own consciousness after transforming. The biggest perpetrator of adopting and pushing this skewed perspective of the curse is Akito, who I have no doubt had this idea pushed on her as well at a young age, but it's safe to say that she has crossed hundreds of miles over the line in terms of application. Talk about a character you are meant to goddamn hate. Every time she shows up, I have to resist the urge to punch her smug, condescending face through the screen. Whenever something remotely nice seems to happen, she has to show up and gaslight whoever wants a shred of happiness. Did the little hint of backstory in the last episode draw me in? Yes. Am I interested to see how she turned out like this? Yes. But she's still gonna get microscopic to zippo sympathy from me when this is all said and done. Which is saying a lot, because I tend to easily feel sorry for a lot of antagonists who've arguably done much worse things. She is both the most brilliantly written and loathsome characters I have ever witnessed in my life. It was truly a stroke of genius on Takiya's part to make the god of the Zodiacs an androgynous character. So much so that I was originally a little disappointed when she was revealed to be biologically female in the season 2 finale. She was always just divinity incarnate, this mysterious and looming figure who was both feared and revered by the Zodiacs. I would have been fine if her gender was never revealed. However, now that it has been revealed, I find myself becoming much more intrigued in her situation and forming a myriad of questions. Why is her true gender kept a secret? Is it for external or internal reasons? Do the Zodiacs know that she's a woman? Do I use she, her, or they, them pronouns for this portion of the video? God, Season 3, why are you so far away? I'm too busy to read manga. But the finale of Season 2 also left me even more intrigued about the parts of the curse that we don't know about. How does it affect Akito? How did the Somas get wrapped up in the relationship between God and the animals? And of course, how is the curse broken? These are all questions that I've come up with, and I can't wait to see what's done with them in Season 3. And speaking of seeing, to move on to a more technical side of things, the show is absolutely gorgeous to look at. TMS Entertainment really pulled no stops for this production, really using the animation to its greatest storytelling potential. I especially loved the series' use of lighting and color, with the romantic and whimsical moments being filled with vibrant colors and sunshine, and some of the darker, more lonely scenes being enveloped in shadows and deep blues and grays. I would also like to give mad props to character designer Masaru Shindo for adapting the characters' looks from the manga and 2001 anime into a more modern style. Takiya's original drawings, while very well done and detailed, draw from a style that was very much a product of its time. A style that can have its place in today's anime industry, but no longer for a show that's marketed as a drama. Besides, look at me and tell me that all these characters aren't all goddamn beautiful to look at. Thank you, Shindo-san. The series is just as marvelous audibly as it is visually, too. Due to my experience as a high school choir kid and my music minor in college, a show's soundtrack is among the first things I latch onto and a big part of where the series places in my overall favorite rankings. Needless to say, Fruits Basket is definitely top tier in my book. Masaru Yokoyama's score does an incredible job at filling you with wonder, dread, nostalgia, sadness, and just about every other emotion in between. All of the pieces play off each other very well, but are still so unique and memorable that I could easily pick them out were I to hear them. I am not ashamed to say that I listen to Spring Will Come When the Snow Melts at least 5 times a day, just for the sheer beauty of the composition and the sense of inspiration it gives me. By the way, does anyone else find it super ironic that 2 of the biggest reboots of the past decade, this and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, both have a song titled Again as their first opening? Because I do. Talk about a whiplash of genres, though. And I can't finish talking about sound without giving my praises to both the Japanese and English voice cast. I watched all of Season 1 dubbed, but I watched all of Season 2 subbed with the Japanese simulcast, going back to watch it in English once the dub episodes were released. Having seen the show in both languages, I can definitely say that both casts are absolutely brilliant, with each actor bringing their own flair to the characters and masterfully portraying the whirlwind of emotions present in the story. As my college acting professor once said, no matter how simple or complicated, every character is just one hot mess of a human, and I think everyone involved understands that concept to a T. I would also like to take a moment to appreciate the English cast and crew with Funimation, who, outside of the first 3 episodes, have been dubbing the entirety of Season 2 in their own homes while in quarantine. Whether you're a dub person or not, that is a dedication and marvel that should not go unnoticed, especially with the absolutely beautiful performance we've been blessed with this season. I swear, I didn't cry the first time I saw Kyo's I Love You scene in Japanese. Nothing against Yuma Uchida, his performance was heartbreaking, it just takes a lot to make me cry at a show. But for whatever reason, as soon as I heard Jerry Jewell's version, I melted in my chair and began openly weeping. Additionally, while I don't know about the Japanese version, the English production was able to bring back a majority of the cast from the 2001 dub, which is very impressive. As an actor myself, I bet it must be a blast for all of them to rediscover and play with these characters again. You can definitely tell that everyone is having a lot of fun behind the microphone, and their passion easily transitions into the work. So yeah, in my opinion, Fruits Basket is a masterpiece. Is it without flaw? No. Are there similar shows that are probably better? Maybe. But this show has touched me in ways that I never thought a show could. In ways that have everything and nothing to do with what I just spent however long talking about. I think it's safe to say that this year wasn't what we all thought it was going to be, for a multitude of reasons, unfortunately. I unceremoniously had to move out of my dorm room and university of 3 years in March. I had to give very quick and weary hugs to all of my friends and underclassmen who had to leave quickly in order to catch flights back home. I was in the notorious class of 2020, who never got to live through senior traditions, never got to walk across the stage, whose graduation got canceled, and who received her degree in the mail with a t-shirt months after I was originally supposed to get it. While my emotions have been up and down these past couple of months, the one constant that has gotten me through it has been anime. Shows like My Hero Academia and Haikyuu have provided me with joy and escapism, But Fruits Basket provided me with something that was arguably much more important, and that's hope. You can't run away from your problems. It only makes things worse. But you can find joy in the little things to help get you through it. If you don't have the strength to get back up, then find people who will lend you their strength and love until you can stand on your own 2 feet again. I don't want to be the kind of person who only sees darkness and who gives into despair. I want to be the kind of person who can find light anywhere and provide it for people who maybe can't see it as well. I want kindness and love to guide me. And ourselves and our world around us, they're what we make of it. And these are lessons that I thought I always knew, maybe I did, but this show really helped solidify them in my mind. So for that, I will be eternally grateful. And I can't wait to see what this show has to offer.